Welcome, everybody. I'm Nancy Vandell, chairperson of the NCAC Bylaws Subcommittee, and we're here for feedback session number 1 with one guest, Brian. Welcome, Brian Batchelder. And I think your wife out there, she's welcome also. Hello, are you going to join us as well? And what's your name? You're muted, Brian.
Okay.
I'm Suzanne, and I'm going to be listening. I'm doing dishes too. So
okay. Multitasking. That's great.
Yeah.
Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you.
And could the committee introduce yourselves?
Okay, I'm Michael Beachley. I'm Michael Beachley. I'm the NCAC parliamentarian.
Go for it. Oh, you already said it. Okay, Tom Sipe. I'm the editor of the document.
So we appreciate your attending. I think, Brian, you came to one of our meetings a while back and thinking it might be a feedback session. So we're glad to see you now for a feedback session.
Yeah, I apologize. I crashed that meeting. It's like, there's a phone number. I'll call in and listen.
It's not crashing at all. All of our meetings are open to everybody. And so, it's just that you would be listening to a lot of detail in a regular meeting, whereas today, hopefully we have a little bit better presentation for you. So I'm going to go ahead and share the presentation. Obviously, feedback sessions are intended to be really casual. And so anytime you have a question, comment, please feel free to do that. And let me just share. I'm going to do this one. Okay. Can you all see the cover for the presentation here? Is it readable? Okay. So basically what we're going to do is have our welcome and introductions, which we just did, schedule for adoption, proposed bylaws amendments, and then go into the significant policies, procedures, and references amendments. And so you've just met the subcommittee. Susan Schoenberg is in Paris at the moment, and it's 4 a.m. there. I told her, go ahead and sleep. Just briefly on Oregon public meeting law, we're going to have a slide on this a little bit later, but everything we do is under Oregon public meeting law, which is why it's recorded. And everything is put on our website in the archives section after the fact. But you should be able to find all these documents in our meeting folder. This presentation is in the meeting folder. The current draft of the policies, procedures, and references is in the meeting folder, as well as a separate agenda. So those are available to you to go through or download. And if you notice in your bedtime reading anything that you would like to discuss, we're available in our email address is at the bottom here. So as I mentioned, feel free to speak up anytime with any Q&A. So I think you've been involved in the past, right, Brian, where we've had the bylaws amendments 2 years ago. And then last year, we did a brand new policies, procedures, and references document.
Certainly have listened in, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so at this point, what we're doing is basically cleanup. There were some things we didn't have time to get to last year. And so as we went through, and some things that just came up that we realized we didn't have something written about it. So a lot of that is just cleanup from to make the document a little more robust. So we have the drafts pretty well finalized in quotes because for now to present at the feedback session. So we're having 2 identical feedback sessions. One is tonight and the other is on Saturday at 10 a.m. just to give 2 different time options. At the same time, we're reviewing with Tillamook County, and because we're an agent of the county, and so they have to approve anything that we do regarding this, and they've been very positive. And then if we need to, then we'll have another feedback session on March 7th, but I doubt we'll need to do that. We should have the final proposed documents out on Monday, March 9th. And then our big meeting that we really hope you and whoever will attend is on March 14th, Saturday at 10 a.m. And that's a special membership meeting to adopt these amendments. And that will be a little more like a meeting, a little more formal. So I'm going to turn this over to, or do you have any questions at this point on what we're going to do?
Nope.
And you could just stay unmuted if you want. It's up to you. I'm going to turn it over to our editor, our illustrious editor, Tom, to go through the definitions, and then we'll go forward.
Not sure why I qualify as being illustrious, but anyway, it's important to make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about when we talk about these various documents. And there's a whole lot of stuff here that some people have said that is a little overkill, but is really necessary for the proper functioning of a governmental agency, which is what we are. I should say that we are an arm of the Community Development Office, and that we basically report to the Director of Community. So we have bylaws and we have PP&R. The bylaws we've had for quite a while. We had a pretty good session trying to hammer out what those are. And basically those are the rules of the road. Those are the things that we must abide by in order to do business as an organization. The PP&R is the policies, procedures, and references. And essentially it's a help for providing some details of the bylaw that are not included in the bylaws, and just procedures and references that people may find interesting. We'll certainly go into it a lot more. Policies are directives. There are statements for guidelines for acting. They are something very similar to what would be in a bylaw. You have to, if you're going to do something, you have to do it in this way. Procedures are basically just how to do it. And most people probably won't refer to those unless you're directly involved with something that those address. And references are for everybody. If you need to find some information, such as contacts for local county entities, that'll be there. And we'll go into that in more detail. Next. And that's you, Nancy.
That's me. Okay. So we did, as we went through the refining the policies, procedures, and references, we found that we had a few bylaws amendments to make. And in one case, we actually, the first one, we realized we have a bylaws amendment because we had Chair Mark had resigned as chair, but in the middle of that, he was thinking of taking a leave of absence. And we realized in the bylaws we didn't have anything for that. We would have made it happen should he have decided he wanted to do that. But we realized we needed to have just a little thing about leaves of absence. We're going to go through each of these fairly quickly. And then we have a couple of items regarding voting that needed to be changed. And then secretary duties regarding recording of minutes. So leaves of absence, as I said, there's no provision for that. So we provide something for, if a board member needs to step away for some period of time. So we're just suggesting a new paragraph to be added to the existing bylaws, Article 4, Section E, under vacancies, that an officer may take a temporary leave of absence for up to 6 months for any reason, with as much notice, there's a typo there, to the executive board as feasible. Duties shall be handled as a vacancy as described below. Subcommittee chairs may also take a temporary leave of absence for up to 6 months, and duties shall be handled by the subcommittee members as they see fit. The executive board shall determine whether an extension is appropriate. So in the bylaws, there's all other information about vacancies, but basically on how you handle vacancies. And at the moment we have two. We have a vacancy for secretary and a vacancy for chair. So we're basically distributing those duties. The vice chair is taking over. Alex Clark is taking over for Mark as chair and retaining vice chair. And for secretary, a number of us are splitting up the duties until we get someone. And then, this thing's bothering me. I think I'm going to share the actual presentation. Sorry. I thought it was a better way to go, but we go into the PowerPoint. So
you can minimize that, just kind of drag it off to the side so you can make the pad bigger.
Okay. Thank you. See, that's why you're our illustrious editor. I could go into slideshow too. Okay, so for voting, we found we had two issues with voting. When we did the bylaws, things were occasionally contentious, and the previous bylaws required either a Zoom poll or some kind of roll call vote. But we're finding in practicality that in most cases our votes are pretty unanimous. And so we felt like it was kind of arduous to limit. And so we're suggesting a change to the bylaws that allows for either voice votes or hand counts to be added as options. A second change is, and we're going to go through this in a little more detail. The second change, we realized actually through our illustrious parliamentarian, Michael Beachley, our previous wording in the bylaws was that if someone wanted a roll call vote, which is something where it's actually by everybody votes by name and the name and their vote is recorded by name. We had in there that there had to be a motion adopted to do a roll call vote because it can take quite a bit of time if there are a lot of people. But Robert's Rules of Order, Michael pointed out, does not require a vote. If somebody wants a roll call vote, they should just be able to ask for one and it happens. So we thought that was better to stay with Robert's rules. So those are the two areas. So under the first voting option change to allow for a voice vote or a show of hands, the current wording is NCAC actions should be by a majority vote of the members present, including election of officers. The exception is NCAC bylaws amendments, which require 2/3 vote. Those attending via video conferencing shall register their vote via electronic polling or roll call vote. Members attending a hybrid meeting in person may vote by a show of hands and paper ballot. And so what we're suggesting changing is, without objection, the chair shall determine the method of voting. Normally and by default, voting should be conducted by electronic polling. However, motions appearing to have general support may otherwise be decided by a voice vote or by a virtual show of hands. The PP&R provides detailed procedures, and boy, are they detailed. Members attending a hybrid meeting in person may vote by a show of hands or a paper ballot. So that last sentence is the same. So let me just say that in the detailed procedures, that it gives the chair the chair of the meeting a lot of information on how to decide whether a voice vote is appropriate. And so if there is no discussion left, if it looks like it's not controversial, the chair can elect to do a voice vote. If there are any no votes at all, then we move into one of the other procedures, because there's no way with Zoom to be able to determine what an actual voice vote is if it's close. We have learned that if you have multiple people talking into a microphone, Zoom only picks up one of those at a time, right? So the key is negative votes. If there's even one no vote, then it has to go to another method of voting, show of hands or a Zoom poll or some other type of voting. So we still have the protections in place, but what we found is, gosh, in all these previous meetings lately, it's just unanimous. Everything's unanimous. So it just seems like this is more practical in our mind.
Well, one thing I'd like to add.
Any questions?
I'd like to add, Brian, unless you're colorblind, which we do have one member who is colorblind, the type in green is what's new.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, thank you.
Thank goodness I'm not colorblind.
Yeah. And you'll see that in the PP&R also. If you download the actual document or you view the actual document, anything in the PP&R that's in green has been something that the subcommittee has agreed should be in there, but is new compared to the currently approved PP&R from last May. Yeah, thank you. Very good, Tom. So under roll call voting, so you can see the green. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically what we're saying is that you don't have to have the motion required that we have in the current reading. A call for a roll call vote made by any member, it's the same, that it can only be made immediately before or immediately following the votes on an issue. It must be acted upon immediately with exceptions noted in Robert's Rules of Order. And the vote will be held with each member declaring their name and membership qualifications, followed by their vote and recorded. So the one of the exceptions that's noted in Robert's Rules is if for some reason you have somebody that's trying to just disrupt the meeting and keep anything from happening and wants to call for a roll call vote for all these different things, that might be an exception. But we wouldn't anticipate that. But that again gets into some fairly complex parliamentary procedures, and that we would advise the chair on what they could. Michael can advise the chair on what they can do in those instances. But so there are exceptions, but overall, if anyone wants a roll call vote, they can get it. So that's it for voting. Do you have any questions about that, or?
No, that all seems straightforward and just what I would expect.
Okay. And then the last bylaws amendment is we've been having difficulty finding a secretary, and we're hearing that taking of minutes might be an issue. And we had thought the secretary job is a big job. It handles the management of the website, the management of the email system, the Google Drives for all of our storage, as well as minutes and that kind of thing. And when we redid the bylaws, we created a communications task force to assist the secretary and take some of those duties away under the supervision of the secretary. But we left minutes as a role of the secretary. But we're hearing that might actually be something that could keep somebody from being secretary. So we thought, okay, let's allow that to be delegated as well, as long as the secretary is supervising that. So basically, it's a simple bylaws change. These are the key duties of the secretary in the bylaws. And the first one is record the minutes of membership and executive board meetings. And so we're just changing record minutes or ensure that they are recorded accurately for those meetings. So that's really it. So any questions about that?
No question, but just a comment. Nowadays, so many of the Zooms I'm on are being recorded by AI or annotated by AI. I didn't know if you had any ideas of whether that would be acceptable given public records laws or.
So it's a really good question, and we actually put that in the policies, procedures, and references under the minutes, where we provide quite a bit more detail about what should be included in minutes and that kind of thing. And we actually just added the AI possibility that yes, they can take AI minutes, but they need to check them. Whoever's responsible for that would be probably the secretary. Check them and make sure they're correct. And what we're finding currently with Zoom AI taken minutes is that they don't include the attendees. There's certain things that have to be put in manually currently, but yeah, and they sometimes have more than really needs or appropriate to be in there. Since we have videos.
There's also the issue about AI minutes don't provide context. And sometimes, a bit of explanation or reference to something earlier is necessary. Because, and then there are other times when AI misunderstands what the word was that somebody spoke. And we've run into that a few times where we've come off the wall with something. What did he say? So,
but it is getting better though. And
yeah, it is.
So, we also have video. So all of our meetings are recorded via video. And so partly minutes don't need to have a lot of detail. They can just point to where you might go to the video for more detail as well. But yeah, excellent question.
AI would be exceptional at that. I'm also surprised about the not having a list of attendees, because clearly Zoom knows exactly who was on the call. And that would seems like that would be trivial to add, but certainly being able to having AI do transcription means they can link you right to the moment in the video.
Yeah, I think they
Right.
right now we have a bolt-on system, so it's not well integrated with Zoom.
Okay.
But I would expect them to integrate it better.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
is all through Zoom. It is all through Zoom, but yes, I don't think I have seen improvements in Zoom. I'm a secretary for another organization, and we use the Zoom AI. And at the beginning, I just kind of checked it out, and now a couple of years later, it's gotten better. I still don't use it completely, but yeah, it's definitely gotten better.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, so that's it for bylaws. So now we're into policies, procedures, and references, and I'm going to turn that over to Tom.
Yes, that would be me. Okay, I'm right here just talking about what it is in general. I kind of talked about it a little bit before, but essentially this is a help document. This supplies details that aren't there, how to do it, and some references. We've provided an introduction, which basically, I should talk about the reorganization. The previous version had things which were policies and things which were procedures kind of intermixed and not well segregated. And when we go into definitions, I'll explain how they got different. But basically, we reorganized them such that all the things you got to do are in the first part. All the things you can do are in the second, and things you might be interested in are in the third part, the procedures. And so, do you have details on bullets 4 and 5, or not?
Yes, so we do. So we do have a new introduction that we weren't really going to go through today, but it was some on that original slide. And then I think the key is that as far as the presentation is concerned, we're going to go into more detail on the policies than we are on the procedures or the references.
The introduction.
Any of it's that you're welcome to ask about.
Yeah, the introduction basically is a how-to. How to use this document? What's it for? And that was Wyatt's suggestion. Once again, a very excellent suggestion. That made a whole lot of sense. And why didn't we do that? Okay. So the things that are new are most new. There's some changes, some other places minor. Meeting notices and documents, request to the NCAC. That's a pretty complicated one. We'll explain what that is later. Quorum, recessions and reconsiderations, which I am unqualified to do anything but say the title, and OPML, which is.
And we ended up changing that, didn't we, Tom?
Yeah.
So, oops, I'm in slideshow, so I can't, but I need to correct that too. Yeah. So it's now called considerations and rescissions. Yeah. No PML. So, yeah. And so some of these are new and some of these are major modifications, and the others might have minor little modifications. We're just not going through them tonight. And like surveys and straw polls, number 4 is something that Tom, in his editorial capacity, went in and changed from our bulletized flowcharty stuff to English, and so but no actual content change. So,
oh no!
So we're
don't
not going
take my
that.
flow charts away.
I know.
There was no flow chart, but there was a whole lot of bullets down to 5 levels.
That's me. So I like that. But anyway, he did a very nice job though of making it English.
So they are editorial changes. Motions and voting changed, and applications to NCAC positions changed in terms of the procedures.
So as Tom mentioned on the reorg, we had it before a lot more procedures topics and fewer policy topics. And so I think some policies went to procedures and some procedures went to policies. Some were merged. So it's been quite reorganized, but he did a really nice job with that.
Well, once we worked with it for a while, we realized that we'd kind of munged a few things. And then there's a new neighborhoods of Nesquin map, which I was interested that the community plan subcommittee was not aware that there are 13 neighborhoods in the Nesquin area. They thought there was maybe 5 or 6. So it's interesting they didn't know that. Then the job descriptions, that's a major thing that's been added and was noted that was missing, and more information on task forces.
So you can kind of see what references are. These are things that could be easily changed that are just kind of support if you're interested, and particularly the job descriptions are supposed to be a help for the people in those positions on what their jobs are in more specificity.
Yeah.
Okay, meeting notices and documents is Susan, so I'll just handle it. Basically, we had some incorrect information on meeting agendas and then some confusion over them. I think the last version of the PP&R said that meeting agendas had to be provided with notice of meetings. So if a meeting, like a meeting notice is 14 days before a general meeting, a membership meeting, the agenda has to be provided. And there was an assumption that it couldn't be changed, but agendas can be changed. The bylaws never actually said you have to have an agenda provided with the notice. So we've clarified that. We haven't changed the bylaws, but we've clarified to say that meeting agendas should be provided with the initial meeting notice, but they can be changed up to and through a meeting. So this is what it now says in the meeting notices, that meeting notices shall include the meeting date and time. Fortunately, I've got our people slide here. I'll get this out of the way. Okay. Meeting notice shall include the meeting date and time and the electronic registration link, and if a hybrid meeting, the physical location. For regular meetings, the initial agenda is to be included in the notice and should contain as much business as is known. As changes to the agenda are determined, the agenda shall be updated and posted. The agenda may be changed during the meeting upon approval of the members. However, if the new item is non-urgent or controversial, consideration should be given to deferring it to the next meeting. So per the bylaws, only noticed agenda items may be discussed in special and urgent meetings. Does that make sense? Okay. And then we go to Michael for quorum.
Well, yeah, we have to have a quorum in order to conduct business, but not necessarily to talk to each other. We're expecting a quorum, and we have a quorum. Go ahead to the next slide. We go to the this particular one, and it says there is a quorum required for each meeting, and a quorum needs to be called for. That is declared at the beginning of each meeting. And if there is not a quorum available, then we encourage the members who are available to call their spouses or somebody else who has a vote, maybe a friend or whatever, who also is a member, and at least, do what we can to develop a quorum. And once it's done, then we can call the meeting in order and move on. If we can't get one, the chair has the authority to either postpone the meeting to a different time and make sure that there is adequate notice, appropriate notice for that change. And if we decide to do so, any group decides to do so, they can continue the meeting, but only to discuss things. They can't conduct any business whatsoever without a quorum. And there's a lot of reasons why. I don't need to go into them, but the most important one is that you can't conduct business with just one or two folks hanging out. It's just not. It's just not appropriate, and crazy things can happen that way. So that's basically all this particular one is. Next. Oh, reconsiderations and rescissions. This is kind of an interesting one. We make decisions all the time. Sometimes we need to come back and take a look at those decisions. because they are either not appropriate or we change our mind or some event occurs that changes the meaning or context of the decision having been made and so on. And Robert's Rules talks about two kinds of returning to earlier decision making. And one of them is a reconsideration, which you can do anytime in the meeting in which the decision is made. You could even do that during what is called a session. And a session for us is January to January, I guess our session is. That's one thing I wanted to suggest.
Actually, our fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th.
Okay. Then at any rate, it's the entire year is the session. And you can reconsider earlier things within that session. But if we vote on something that is actually a policy or a program and so on and so forth that brings about some action in the community or some action on the part of the Board of Commissioners for the county and so on, particularly if that is has to do with funding or has to do with a legal decision or so on and so forth. The only thing we can do is come back and try to deal by changing it in the past. If it is a serious issue, we can't do it at all. And that's part of our policies in here under rescissions. If, for example, we make a decision that has an effect to have a contract with somebody, with a business or government entity or some other entity, and that contract is done, we can't go back arbitrarily and rescind that. But if it's a policy or some other kind of decision, we can come back and reconsider it, particularly in the case where circumstances change, and then we can go back and take a look at that. So it's an important distinction, as all this particular policy is about, between what it is that we can reconsider, which is basically a motion to reconsider and needs to be seconded and passed, and then we can rediscuss. Reconsider does not mean we change anything. It just means it comes back on the floor and we argue and we deal and we discuss and so on and then make a decision. But rescinding means you take it away. You actually change it. So we have to be careful about what actually occurs after a motion passes and some other policy changes or program changes, or it starts to be developed, or a legal decision is made, or money changes hands, or something like that, then no, we can't go back and rescind on that. That's all there is to that.
So, I'm thinking as I'm reading this, Michael, that the vote to reconsider is a vote to pass to reconsider. I mean, it's not to vote on the original issue.
Yeah.
So we probably need to clarify that in this language. It's occurring to me. It's not that we're voting on the original issue. We're just voting on whether to reconsider that issue. Correct?
Well, the original motion is gone. I mean, it's done. So basically, what we're doing, we're reconsidering an issue, not a motion. So an issue could be the same issue. For example, we might want to reconsider how many people we have on a particular committee. That's perfectly fine. That's a good reconsideration, because we come back at the next meeting and said, wait a minute. When we didn't think about X and Y and Z, maybe we should come back and look at that one again. Okay, then we can do a reconsideration.
So Michael, if I'm interpreting this correctly, that if there's something that's voted on during a meeting and during that same meeting we reconsider and rescind it, it's as if it never was in effect.
Those are two different things. Reconsidering and rescission are two completely different things. Reconsidering is simply a parliamentary action that allows us to put the same decision that we had earlier on the floor again. Because we may want to change our votes, or we may want to change circumstances, or we may want to change some numbers or something like that. But a rescission means we're taking it away. And that's okay from time to time, and that can be done down the road, but not when it has some kind of legal action attached to it, or it actually goes beyond our purview. Let's say it goes up to the county board of commissioners, and they pick it up and start doing that. We don't have the authority to come back and say, "Oh, no, we're gonna drop that one."
Yeah, a
Well,
little background on this was that Sarah Absher, the director of community development, asked us to create this because they had it's an issue that came up in a different CAC, different Citizens Advisory Committee that was looking at going back on some building code stuff that had been voted on in the CAC 4 years before, and it created quite the issue. So she went some policies around it, and that's kind of the basis of this. Michael, I think a session in my reading of Robert's rules is if you have like a 3-day convocation or something, and within that 3 days you would have a motion to reconsider. But I thought for our purposes it would have to be within one of our meetings. Is that not true? Or maybe we should talk about that in a future
We have not
committee meeting.
Yeah, we haven't made any such decision on timing, and might be worth us discussing that. And
because we stay right in here that it's for whoops.
Does it say same meeting?
Yeah.
With no set the vote to rescind. Yeah, it does. Same meeting in which a decision is made. I have no problem with that, by the way. But there are circumstances under which, if we meet again the next time, and here's the issue as a parliamentarian: if there has not been any action outside of our purview as a result of our motion, then we can reconsider. But if there is an action elsewhere, then we cannot go back and take a look at that. We can't rescind something that is that we passed out of our hands. It belongs to somebody else.
Of course, the old IEEE editor in me says that you really can't specify for things that you are unaware of. So action could have been taken outside that you're unaware of.
That's right. And when you pick up something later on, and this is not going to apply to us because our reconsideration requires that it be in the same meeting. But if you pick something later on in reconsideration, it's incumbent upon us to discover that nothing has been passed out, nothing has been acted upon elsewhere, and so on. Otherwise, we're putting ourselves in jeopardy.
So let me add, the place where that actually comes to the most effect is that the community plan becomes part of the county's comprehensive plan.
Yes.
And as such, anything which is the example that's creating a little problem up the coast a bit, then it is indeed out of our hands. It's in a county document, and we don't have the ability to rescind that.
Yes.
Because it's no longer ours. We've given it up.
But let me give you a even cloudier one.
Cloudier we don't need.
Well, but it's one that could conceivably come up. Let's say that we create a special task force for a particular action.
Okay.
And we appoint some people to do it. And the upshot or the result of that appointment for any particular person is he or she may actually need to change their residence or their job or something like that in order to get it done. Well, that could create a personal liability if we then come back and rescind it and that person is, they're stuck. Well, that's the kind of thing that becomes a problem for us. Okay,
I'm not sure I quite agree with that, but I think we need to have a discussion.
It's a good discussion, but to cancel a previous action is a formidable task.
Yeah,
and you have to be clear and understanding that nothing of consequences has occurred as a result of our previous decision. And if it hasn't, then fine. You might be able to cancel it. But if something has occurred outside of our purview, then there's a liability issue that seems to me to rise up.
And probably in this kind of a circumstance, we would go to county legal through Sarah
Yes,
Hatcher
of
too
course.
and have it checked out.
Yeah.
So IEEE editor, huh?
Ah,
Yeah,
So what-
I've had many lives.
so what
Yeah.
IEEE organization? Because you got a couple more here.
Oh, really? Yeah. I was the editor of the 1284.4 spec, which was a spec for communication on the computer's parallel port back in the day when we had parallel ports.
I remember parallel ports.
I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah, and
parallel ports.
it ended up actually being used on USB too. I'm sure if any of you have USB printers, it's using that standard.
Of course.
Or it has
those
used it.
pinouts. Those pinouts are fun.
Yeah. This is more on the
I have a story
software
around
level.
that, but
Oh.
okay, not the physical level, huh? Okay.
No, not physical layer.
So I
Yeah,
was
Tom is too.
yeah, 802.11 and 802.15.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard of those. They're kind of popular, I think.
Yeah, they're beginning to catch on.
Wow, Tom, that's good. That is good. Congratulations and thank you very much for that work.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Why did you say the first draft of 802.11 was 10 years?
Yeah, it took 10 years to get the first draft, and then 2 years to make it actually work.
Our Wi-Fi standards, right? And Bluetooth
Wi-Fi
stuff for those
standard.
of you who are not, yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah, we
So when
we
I
didn't have
say
that kind of thing.
illustrious, when I say illustrious, but you should consider, Brian, joining us on our subcommittee because we have 2 more spots.
Yes, in fact, if you want to be editor,
Thank you, Tom. As Tom knows, I'm on another subcommittee and yet another one associated with the Road Association in South Beach, and I've been sucked into other things lately. So right now my bandwidth is just like not there. But if it can be conversations
we also have
like
an
this,
open secretary.
yeah, I was gonna say, I saw that. I thought that was going to already have been offered by this point. Clearly this group would be fun, and keeping us from getting off on IEEE tangents would probably be
that would
a
yeah.
struggle.
Yes.
No, this is fun. So glad you for this. I'm going to move us on to Wyatt and OPML.
Yeah, I think we should make a commitment to Brian that when we have our discussion, we'll make sure that you get updated in terms of what if anything has changed in that area.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Appreciate it.
OPML.
Wyatt, you're on.
Yeah, this is, I think, not a mystery to most people in Oregon, but Oregon has probably one of the most expansive public meeting laws, including not only public meetings, but documents that are related thereto. And we are required, because we are literally a sub-agency of the county, to comply with Oregon public meeting laws. And so I bought a book from the Attorney General's office, which is their Bible on open meetings and documents, to make sure that our stuff complied with that when we were considering Policy 22. And as it's currently drafted, as I recall, I'm not looking at it now, but it basically references Oregon Public Meetings Law and incorporates it as part of our essentially Bible for policy with respect to how we conduct ourselves. It's not exactly complicated. It's not complex. It has nothing to do with complex editorial matters of the time that, or the kind that you guys were talking about. But it is a publication which I think is part of the references as well. And it's pretty easy to just incorporate it. I think the biggest problem for us is maintaining records later on down the line, and that's a county function, but that's a different issue. So
this is the detail, Wyatt.
Yeah. Okay.
Because this is new. Yeah.
Yeah. We the other thing we tried to do is to make sure that we didn't overstep our requirements here for public meetings. And we included um, some exemptions, the exemptions that are permitted by law. We also tried to create some electronic limitations about communications electronically during meetings between decision makers, et cetera, as well as electronics between voting members of the association, which would be clearly appropriate. I think what we came out with was that maybe that was overkill to begin with, but the normal day-to-day activities which don't require making policy decisions are pretty well recognized as exempt under Oregon Public Meetings Law. And we tried to mimic that as well at the bottom so that we weren't tied down with the normal business functions of the association or the committee or subcommittees to the point where we were just inundating ourselves with regulation. So it really is a fairly workable policy as I see it now. And I think we've got it honed down to really to the point where it doesn't require a lot of complex interpretation. It's pretty well understood.
And then we have detail 2 here. Wyatt.
Oh, on the outside communications, Nancy?
Yeah, and the conduct of the meeting.
Conduct of the meeting.
We have to remind people.
Uh,
Yeah, this is kind of new about the chairperson should remind all persons attending a meeting of the requirements for decorum, respect, and order as needed. So they don't have to every time, but
yeah.
we actually do have a policy where they can require any person violating requirements to leave the meeting or cut off the audio. So we didn't have that before. Hasn't been an issue, but
No,
we have
but
it
it has
just
been
in
in
case.
other areas, unfortunately.
Right.
So, and then obviously there's at the bottom, not obviously, but there's a disclosure requirement on communications for voting members who've had outside communications that should be disclosed to the membership before a vote or as part of that vote, so that people aren't operating in the blind and we know what's been going on behind the scenes. There is unfortunately, or fortunately, really, because discussion is encouraged, but there's always going to be communication that is not part of the public record. And so we tried to preserve that or make sure it was disclosed as part of the decision-making process.
Yeah, Wyatt, question for you on this. I mean, it could be pursued to an almost absurd level. You know, we're a small community and we're going to run into each other at the golf course or at the market or having dinner together or something like that. And I've always kind of wondered in bigger communities maybe that's not such an issue because you don't do those things with the other members. But how do you kind of figure out where that line is between you just ran into each other, had dinner together versus you were actually meeting?
Well, I think the line is what's communicated, not necessarily whether you're having a quote meeting unquote. I think it's hard to define what a meeting is to begin with. It really is a matter of somebody collaring you as a decision maker and saying, I want you to hear what my argument is here because I'm not going to be there for the meeting. And at that point, the disclosure is required. And I can tell you this mirrors what judicial requirements are for judges, in the sense that if they're ex parte, as the saying goes, which is the proper term for it in the law, then they're required to disclose it on the record as a matter of course during the course of any hearing. So this is nothing more than required the disclosure to the full committee or full decision-making group of those communications which are on point concerning the matter that's being voted upon or discussed.
Okay.
Now, one of the practical things for a subcommittee is that we are permitted to have one-on-one conversations with each other, but we shall not meet as a committee, which means more than 2 people is not allowed. So
Wow.
when we have some task to do, we do it in pairs. We don't do it in more, because then it with apparently at 3 people it becomes a meeting.
Mhm.
That's sort of the definition, loose definition that we've been given.
Well, and to follow up Tom's point, which is really important, those decisions between the pairs are decisions or drafting decisions that are being made
Yes.
as substantive proposals to the rest of the committee.
Exactly.
And which is why we are limiting ourselves to 2. If it's a matter of sending out an email that says, let's try to get together on such and such a date to discuss this and notice it, that communication really is not foreseen as a substantive discussion because it's a scheduling matter.
And that's something we just kind of learned over the last year, because we had been under the impression we couldn't even do that, which makes, so it's nice. That's why we wrote this actually partly, is that we are permitted to do certain things and not others. But it ends up being actually it took, I think, all of us a while to get used to this OPML. I've never been involved with that before and the constraints of it, but it's kind of nice working one-on-one with somebody to come up with a proposal and talking it through and then bringing it to the full committee, because you've already done some vetting, just having that and then bringing it forward to the full committee that then has an opportunity to flesh it out further. And so it's been a nice way to do it. But back in the bylaws year, when we did have quite a bit of contention on certain issues, we do have a file that we have to keep permanently when we would get communications from members with input, and we kept that as a file, but as long as it's a noticed meeting, then we can talk. Like tonight's a noticed meeting, even though it's mainly for information or not to make decisions. We can chat openly among us ourselves.
Well, so you can't get together for dinner without it being a public meeting?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So we have had 2 lunches and after all of our business has been done for the year, and we do not talk business. And so as long as we're really clear about that, we're very careful about it. We don't talk business, and it's a social thing. And yeah, we did have to be really careful about that. And it wasn't something where we had this stuff before the membership. It had kind of, all been done for the year.
And we're doing this at the behest of the county, not because we like it.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of things that I've done at the behest of the county, not because I liked it.
So that's it for the procedures, for the policies. Do you have any questions before we go into procedures, which will be pretty brief here?
Nope. Jump in.
Okay. So procedure 4 is motions and voting. And basically again, we're going into this less unless you want to hear more. But what we're doing here is providing more information on, we've kind of reorganized a little bit. It's not just on voting. It's how it gives the chair some basic parliamentary procedures on how you do a motion. Because so many people don't really know the basic procedures that, someone makes a motion, there's a second, there's discussion. You don't go directly to the vote. And, you have discussion first, and then you figure out about when it's time to do a vote. And then figuring out, we have quite a bit of detail in here about voice vote versus, if there's any ongoing discussion, really, it's not appropriate to do a voice vote, that kind of thing. So it's a lot more guidelines on how you do that. And when we're done with these 2, Tom's going to take us through the actual document really fast so he could kind of show you. And you can also download it to see what we're talking about. But it is tied into that bylaws amendment as well. And then procedure 11, we figured we should probably have some information for people on how you apply for a position on the NCAC, because right now there's nothing. And some people put in a sentence and other people put in 5 paragraphs. So we just have some information in here. And a future that we're thinking about is maybe to actually have some forms that people could have in the references section that they could fill out, or a little more information. But at least on this, in here, we talk about some things that should be included. So that's really it. And then we have the references section. So I'm going to stop sharing because Tom is going to take us through the document, unless you have some questions before we do that, Brian.
No, I would just applaud you for that whole the procedures, because I assume the NCAC wants to be an ongoing organization, and so often when people when the membership changes over, the executives change over, the board changes over, all that knowledge of how to do things is lost, and to
That
have
was
it
our thought.
documented, yeah, is really great.
Yeah, it was quite an effort last year with the whole new document, and we're pretty proud of it actually. So thank you for saying
You
that.
should be.
Okay, did you want me to, I'm going to share now, but I thought I was going to go just through the references. You want me to go top to bottom on the
Oh,
document?
well, I kind of surprised you. No, you can go to references, and then if Brian's interested, we could go to that voting procedure a little bit just to show
Okay,
him,
sure.
or we could show him all the green.
Yeah.
I just want to see this list of 13 neighborhoods.
Ah, well, we're coming to that.
Okay.
Okay, so essentially we one of the things we did, as in Nancy, did was invent a bunch of specific email addresses so that people can send me email where it's not going to fall on the ground. When we had it all going to info at Nesco and CSE, sometimes it fell on the ground. So we now have a bit there. And we discussed,
Could you go back on that before we move on? I just want to mention too that we are required as part of the county that if there's ever a record search, we could have our emails subpoenaed. And so by having an email address for the NCAC and using it means that hopefully they don't have to get into our personal emails. So we created the bylaws one back when we first started the bylaws subcommittee, and I try to send everything out on from that email. Don't always succeed, but now we're setting it up for everybody else.
yeah, well, it's the old theory of are you paranoid enough? So
No.
Well, and as people change offices,
yeah,
then this will continue on. It's something that the secretary manages. There's a procedure around it, and maybe a policy. I don't know. Anyway, that the secretary manages those emails, and so as people change, that email stays the same.
yeah. And just information about the NCA and Facebook. And then a lot of this is all pretty much the same. That's the reference map, which is unchanged. This is changed. I don't know what your resolution is on your system there, but perhaps I can get almost everything in.
Yeah, you got it, Todd.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the 13 neighborhoods that we are aware of. It started out at 8, so we've increased a number of them. But a lot of these, like Nesquin North, has a pretty tight community, and South Beach has as you know, its own little world.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I used to have this color splotches on there, but we ran out of colors before we ran out of neighborhoods. So that's all.
Is that why you got rid of them? Because I really like the color swatches.
I know
Anyway.
you really liked them. And they were really a pain to do. But when you get to 13 colors,
yeah,
people cannot change.
This is very nice, Tom. Very nice.
Okay. And that, of course, that area is quite a bit smaller than where the neighborhoods are. But most of the neighborhoods are inside. Slab Creek is not.
Yeah, and Tom's comment about that we know of, Brian, just to fill you in. If you go look at Sunbow Drive, do you know where that is?
I don't.
Okay, as you drive north from South Beach, as you pass the fire station, look on your right.
Okay, yeah.
A road called Sunbow Drive. There is probably 15 or 20 homes up in that area. If you go down Slab Creek, that are not noted on here, by the way. If you go up Slab Creek, past the water treatment plant, there is a place called Cascade Trace, which is a
You're over
small
here, right?
community of about 15 homes, all clustered around literally their own spring because they have their own water source.
Oh, fascinating.
So we have a lot of little kind of sub neighborhoods in the area.
Sure. And even in South Beach, we have Ocean Ridge and we have the part
Yeah.
we call ourselves the Cove, or talk about that area as the Cove. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go that, this is enough resolution. One or two more is fine, and too much is not going to be able to do it. We do define, this is along what you said, and about helping the next person in the office. These are all about, these are the things you need to do. The bold here represents a phrase from the bylaws, and this is just amplification of that. And then CH chair, that's left over. We do need a policy on social media, which we haven't quite figured out yet.
We've been asked to wait on that until next year.
Yeah.
Sarah's looking at it for the entire county CACs.
Yeah, because we're an agency of the county, we can't really speak for the county. And it's some question is whether or not having a Facebook account is speaking for the county. It's a good point. And treasurer, lots of good detail drafted with Nancy and the current treasurer, so we're good on that.
Yeah.
And there's reference to ensure that the minutes are recorded. And that's about it. The outreach task force has been modified a little bit in that we now have more places to outreach to. I'm not
That was
sure
something we created last year, was the outreach task force. I remember we did that during the bylaws, but
yeah, we did. And that's basically it. Want to go back to the voting?
Yeah, why don't you go to your table of contents so you could just show them how cool that is, and we can go leaping from place to place.
Okay.
So Tom has it set up so you can jump from place to place. And
yeah, okay. This is not a PDF. I could bring up the PDF, but basically
that's
all
it
these links
works the same way.
Yeah, except you have to press Control.
Oh.
I love Word. What did you use, Brian, by the way, while I'm looking for what I'm looking for? What did you use as an editor?
Oh my God, what did I use? Probably Word. But
It was a procedure, Tom. Procedure 4, I think.
But I'm honestly not sure.
Yeah.
Procedure 4.
Okay, there it is. In the IEEE 802.11 world, we discovered that sometimes Word breaks, and when it gets an update, and you can no longer access your current document or any previous document.
That's true. They don't always maintain backwards compatibility, as certainly to much earlier. Like, I can almost guarantee that if I went and found the document that I was editing, I probably couldn't open it.
Yeah.
I don't remember submission. I don't remember what they required me to do to submit it.
Probably a PDF. That's what we had to do.
Maybe.
But we use FrameMaker. Anyway, back to this.
It might have been FrameMaker. That's another option. Anyway.
So Brian, since you are an editor, we would love it if you went through the whole document. That's your homework, and and let us know if you see any corrections, because we're so familiar, we sometimes don't see corrections.
Yeah.
And let Tom know if you see any.
Okay.
But and also, if you feel like when you look at the document, you don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but if you think there is something else we should include in the presentation for the last feedback session, let us know. We've kind of handpicked the ones that we thought were the critical ones or the more important ones, but you'll see green throughout in just more minor ways that we felt like we didn't want to bore people to tears. So,
Okay. I'll have to try to remember what's different between like shall and must and
Well,
can and
no, well,
that's Tom.
well, this will show you that I have an IEEE.
oh, there we go. Yay.
Shall is required to, should is advised to, may is permitted to, and can is able to.
This is the codex for the whole document.
Yeah.
For life as we know it.
And
Yeah.
lots well, life as I lived it. The problem is that shall in the UK means should, and should in the UK means shall. They just had to deal with it.
Tom, I think this is all editorial. I think you could just make all that green.
I can.
Isn't it?
It is green.
There's some things that he and I changed today.
Oh, I see.
That are
accept
just
change.
editorial.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I can't change it because that's still R17. We do Rev.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah,
want,
do it as a Rev 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just do a Rev 18. We'll put that in the
Revision
one
control.
for tomorrow. In fact, if you could do that after our meeting, then I'll stick it in for our executive board meeting tomorrow for the feedback
Okay.
session. But thank you for making those changes.
Okay.
Okay,
And,
so Brian, do you have any other questions? Are you totally bored? How did you feel the pace was for this?
No, I am not the right person to ask that question because
Okay.
I fully enjoyed all the deviations into shall versus should, and other
Okay.
people were just, is anyone else asleep? But yeah, I mean, like you said, maybe there's something that you didn't present that I might find important if I read through the document. But that all seemed to, what you did present seemed to be thorough. Maybe the one part would be there was some about motions and voting and maybe the reconsider
procedure.
and rescission procedures. I'm just thinking about people who have been involved in those contentious parts of the meetings, which I have not, might be a little more concerned about those sections and want a little bit of a deeper dive into those sections. And what you had there sounded very, to the point and well documented process, but that's me. That meets my requirements, but other people might want to hear more.
Okay. And we can pull that up if they do. Thank you for that. Yeah, as you saw, there was a lot of detail in procedure 4 that we thought might be too much for people. But,
Brian,
but
if
yeah,
we could
we could certainly show them.
We're done and all done, and have any thoughts about the deeper dive, let us know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I certainly will. Yeah. I forget when the next meeting is this weekend.
Yeah.
We're having it on Saturday morning at 10. Yeah.
The good thing about it, Brian, is that, we get deep into our own discussions and we remember what we've talked with each other and so on and so forth. And to have that extra set of eyes really helps.
Absolutely.
You're going to see something that we didn't think about or that we skipped or whatever.
Yeah.
But the whole issue about motions and rescissions and, all of that parliamentary crap, we decided very early in this whole process that a parliamentarian is necessary. There has to be somebody who understands what that's all about because we're required to follow Robert's Rules of Order. And if somebody has any basic understanding of how business occurs, then things will be fine. It's when you don't have such an individual available and everybody else has this kind of naive notion of what they think parliamentary procedure is all about, and then they go off into these battles and I've shared some stories with this group
I'm sure
that include, are you ready? Sidearms.
Oh, geez. I should be surprised or more surprised than I am, but the way things nowadays, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we have
Oh,
some
God.
pretty remarkable people on this subcommittee. You've already heard about Tom, and Wyatt's a former federal prosecutor, and Michael's a professor emeritus at Oregon State and also registered parliamentarian for has been for the Teamsters Union of Oregon, also for
Oh, yeah,
currently for the
right.
Faculty Senate of Oregon, and has been asked to do some guest things. He's talking about with the sidearms down to the beach community in the southern part of Oregon, well, central South Oregon. So yeah, we've got some just terrific
Yeah, it was
expertise
part
here.
of our decision to when we bought our property back 20 something years ago in Nescoin was, as we were down there, and you probably know Susan and Jeff Lindman, they've been close friends of ours for a very long time. They introduced us to a lot of people, and it's like, wow, these are amazing people with amazing lives down here. And it was part of our decision to build there.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. So
It's a
Tom, could you stop
good
sharing?
place to hide out.
Yeah, where did you move from, Brian?
Well, we still have a place in Portland.
Oh, okay.
And so
So
we're
it's a
we're
vacation.
not full timers, and I don't know when or if that will happen. But
Mhm.
think of us as half timers. That's our
Yeah,
goal is to
yeah,
be there about half the time.
yeah. No, that's great. Well, I appreciate your coming and all of your great input, and we look forward to hearing more from you. You're welcome to send anything to the NCAC email address if you want to do that, or if you know to Tom directly if you have his email address. So either way, but
Cool.
we really
Yeah. Thank
appreciate
you.
your coming,
So, and
and you're
sorry I
welcome
was
to
so
come
late.
Saturday. That's okay. We actually always enjoy getting together and chatting. So
Well,
that was just
I
fine.
will see.
You came at the nick of time.
I think I chose this one because I had a conflict on Saturday. But if I'm looking for some curious to see how other people respond to this kind of thing, I will dial in. But I promise to lurk, not participate. I just
Okay.
want to.
Well, we have taken it as a compliment that we have so few people coming because the first year, I think there was one where we had over 120 people attending. A couple of the
Jeez.
bylaws changes, yeah. So and it regularly over 20. I mean, regularly on our we have I think it was 9 feedback sessions for the bylaws and first year. So last year we had much less interest and we felt like okay we've built trust I think and this year it's the same. So
Or you just exhausted
so
everybody.
that's probably
That's
it.
a real
That too.
possibility.
We're taking it as a positive that we built
Okay,
trust. But you're
I'll go with
probably
that
right.
too. Then.
Who cares about the minutia? But yeah. But I hope you'll come on March 14th because that one we need a quorum.
Yeah,
And so we
yeah.
would really
Yeah, I got it.
appreciate your being there on March 14th as we
I wrote
adopt
that one
it.
down. I definitely
Good,
wrote that one down.
good.
All right.
Great. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you very
all.
much. I'm gonna
Okay, thanks, Brian.
adjourn the meeting and
Good
take
chatting
care,
with you.
everybody.
Okay,
Yes. Oh, and I guess I need to stop
stop recording. Okay,
recording.
all right. Well,